Can you hear that? The soft sound of water. And it's so nice to have that in your home garden. Hey, it's Kate. I hope you're having a great day. What's in the garden today? I'm going to show you how to make your own custom water feature for your garden. This is an easy DIY project at a surprisingly affordable price. Have you seen the fountains at the garden centers? Beautiful, but hundreds of dollars, if not more. This one's been running in my garden for a while now, and it cost me about $50 to $60, including the big basin, the bird bath, and a solar pump. The solar panel is on top of this trellis, and the cord comes down the side and slips into the basin, going down to the pump that sits at the bottom. The pump brings in water and pumps it up this tube, which I believe came with the pump. It also came with a variety of sprayers, which I chose not to use. Instead, the water pumps through this bird bath and overflows back into the basin, and I think it looks pretty good. The key to this whole setup is that this bird bath is made of resin, so like plastic, which means it's easy to drill holes in and usually hollow. So I made a big hole in the bottom to fit the hose, and then I added a bunch of little holes inside the dish part. Basically, the water comes in through the hose, fills up the interior, and then it's forced out through the little holes on the top, basically just like a sprinkler. This has been working really well for me, so I'm making another over on the patio, and I thought you might like to see the process.
The second one is a bit smaller, and I have all the pieces sitting here as a standard bird bath. Now I just need to add the solar pump. I started by giving everything a quick clean and got the rocks into a bucket. So here's the pieces. I have a stainless steel dish I got from HomeSense a number of years ago, this solar pump, which is a smaller wattage, so it will pump a little less water. It came with sprayers that make a few different patterns, but they all shoot up pretty high. The downside with them in a bird bath this size is that if there's any wind, the water won't land back in the dish. It will go up, and then the wind will blow it to the side, and it will all land on the ground and empty the bird bath. So I'm not doing that. Instead, I've got a variety of DIY fountain options to go with. I've got this little dip bowl, which could be cute on its own. It would have a bubbling effect and overflow. I've also got this leaf plate that could be used on its own or in combination with the bowl. And I also have this little garden gnome that's holding a leaf as a little dish. I think any of these would look good in combination or on their own. It just depends what style you're going for. My plan is to incorporate all three of them. So first I'm going to get the pump installed, then I'm going to work on the outflow water, the spray setup, so to speak. So here's the gnome. It's from the dollar store for just a few dollars and made from some type of resin. Now that said, it is breakable. This is actually the second gnome I've bought. The first one fell onto a hard surface and his feet broke off. So keep that in mind. But otherwise, it was very easy to drill. It's just a matter of figuring out what's hollow and what's not. So I drilled the intake in his feet, then I decided where he would stand on the leaf so I could drill that hole too. Now these dishes are from the summer section at Walmart, so they're a type of plastic, which means you can drill holes in them with a regular wood drill. They were harder to drill than I was expecting, still doable, just took longer. But maybe that's a good thing for when you're cutting your food. You might have noticed that I'm using more than one drill to make these holes, which can be helpful when making bigger holes. You start with a smaller drill to make a pilot hole and then move up to a bigger drill. That way you're not making the big hole all at once. Instead, the drill can take little bites more easily. So I finally got through the leaf and adjusted the gnome to sit on top properly. This first part of fitting the pump is fairly straightforward in that you want the hole to fit snugly to the pump to minimize leakage. Next, I moved on to the outflow holes, which is much more artistic. This part is more experimental and trial and error. Of course, I failed at camera angles, but I started with 2 holes inside his leaf dish. I can always add or enlarge holes. Sealing them is trickier. So the name of the game now is Test It and see what it looks like. I definitely could have left it here, but it was splashier than I was thinking. So I added a hole. But turn off the pump first, and this spot turned out to not be hollow, so I had to choose another spot. Okay, now test with 3 holes. It looks better. I just wanted to have some water spilling to the side into the little bowl as well. So 1 more hole. I was hoping for a hollow spot, but it wasn't. It ended up going all the way through into the leaf, which is fine. It let a little water out to fall into the bowl. So I approached this second fountain pretty confidently. I spent much more time experimenting on the first bird bath. The first time, I tried out all the sprayers that came with the pump before I started making my own. Here's some things I learned from the first one. Any holes that are underwater just make a bubbling effect, which is what I wanted for the gnome. But any holes out of the water spray more regularly and will probably spray at the angle that you drilled them. Now, hole size. Use the provided sprayers as a guide and consider the size and number of them. Less holes and smaller holes will shoot farther. If it shoots too far, you have too much water pressure inside, so you need to let the water out faster. You can do this by adding more holes or making them bigger. And a side note, you can also do this with the sprayers that came with the pump. So if you're not happy with the provided spray patterns, you can adjust them somewhat. So I got the second bird bath fountain set up in its place. I added some of the rocks back in to cover the mirror-like bottom, but left a lot of them out so it would have a good-sized water reservoir. I think it turned out pretty well, and now I have 2 completely custom, one-of-a-kind bird baths in my garden. I'm really happy with them, and they add a ton of ambiance to the space. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.